This is the third part talking about identification of the harlot in Revelation, showing you that it is Jerusalem of the first century. People are already responding. Thank you so much. I appreciate this correspondence. It's letting me know where people are coming from, letting me know what people think they need to see in order to be convinced that what I'm saying is the truth. And I have things in my mind that I need to relate in a proper way so that you can relate to it and follow it and be convinced or not be convinced. Either way, that's okay. I'm not perfect in my understanding. This is the best of my ability, and I'm showing you what I sincerely believed after having believed years ago that the Roman Catholic Church was the beast. I read The Two Babylons by Alexander Hislop, and that blew me out of the water, and how paganism and so forth was all involved. And I know all of that. I've been there, done that, got the book, the t-shirt, the cap, and even got the running shoes emblazoned with the logo on the sides. But this is what I believe now. And I'm trying to share what I believe with you in case you might see that I agree. That's the way it is. So we're going to Revelation 17 again and showing you another aspect that helps us identify who the harlot is, showing that it's first century Jerusalem. So in verse 1, notice he says, I'll show unto you the judgment of the great whore. Now, we're dealing with judgment on a harlot city. We know this is a city. The Bible actually tells us, and it was committing fornication with the kings of the earth. Now, it was a spiritual fornication. You've got to understand how God looks at that. And it's a fornication in the Bible, in the Greek, is sexual sin. Now, here's the kicker. Fornication, that being emphasized by God as being so atrocious, has to be like, for example, a woman married to a man committing sexual sin against him by having relationships with another man. That is how fornication is so detestable in the eyes of God. Having the Roman Catholic Church, or having a denominational system, or having some religious denominational setup that people attribute to be the harlot, means that God was married to her and doesn't like what she's doing because she's committing adultery. That is really the connotation we're getting. Now, God was never married to the Church of Rome. He was never married to denominational Protestantism, or what other that. The bride of God is talking about somebody that was genuinely and actually married to him. So for this person to have committed fornication and adultery against God, they must have been married to him. And that's what modern teachings on prophecy never focus on. They don't see that it's fornication against God. Now, Israel is the only entity that's in the entire Bible that fits that category, because she was actually married to God. Now, notice in verse 2, the nations, inhabitants of the earth, were made drunk of her fornication. So she was enticing people all around her with that fornication. And then in verse 3, John was carried away in the spirit to the wilderness and sees this woman sitting on a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, and having 7 heads and 10 horns. So the beast had the 7 heads and the 10 horns. The beast was scarlet-colored, and this relationship with the harlot helps us identify who the harlot is. Jerusalem does have 7 hills. It does. But Rome has 7 hills. Now, you've got to see this distinction too. People are losing this distinction in the scriptures. The beast is not the harlot. They're not the same entity. The harlot is riding and guiding and directing the beast. But the beast is not the harlot. Jerusalem is not the place with 7 hills that this beast represents, that has 7 mountains or 7 kings and so forth. And people start getting confused. You see, the beast is the governmental system in this book of Revelation. The 4 beasts that Daniel saw, the lion, the bear, the leopard, and then a terrible one that he couldn't compare, and it actually had traits of the lion, it had traits of the leopard, and it had traits of the bear, and it comprised this 4th one. It's like the devil took all the qualities of the previous and then combined them into one to come against Christ and the church. Rome. So Rome is the fourth beast. Rome has the 7 heads because the city has 7 hills. Now people say to me, the harlot can't be Jerusalem because Rome has the 7 hills. Well, Jerusalem has 7 hills too, but none of that is relevant anyway because it's the beast that the 7 hills are associated with, not the harlot. The beast, the harlot didn't have 7 heads, the beast did. And those are the 7 mountains. Now, it's only unbelieving Jews we're talking about that persecuted the church. When we say Jews, it's not Jews in general. I know many Jewish people today. They've got nothing to do with Zionism. They got nothing to do with a hatred of Christianity at all. In fact, I know Jews that are Christians. Now, what we see with Jerusalem riding the back of the beast, Rome, is Herod and Rome carried out the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Pilate was willing to let Jesus go, and the Jews said, crucify him. They said, well, are we going to crucify? We have no king but Caesar. And there's the adultery. The Jews, that harlot, was filled with the blood of the saints and the prophets. Jesus Christ's blood was shed by Jerusalem, and Jerusalem was urging and directing and pushing Pilate, was pushing Rome to carry out that crucifixion, pushing the Roman leaders and governors and so forth in the book of Acts to persecute the church. The beast was being ridden by Jerusalem, the harlot. And while it was doing so, it was committing fornication with Rome. Now, in Revelation 17:4, we read that the woman was arrayed in purple, scarlet color, decked with gold, precious stones, and pearls. And all of this adornment is what God gave to. I'm going to show you in the book of Ezekiel that they got it from God because it's talking about Jerusalem. But as we will show, as we continue in these videos, Jerusalem used that jewelry she got from God and abused it for her harlotry. So what you're seeing in Revelation is biblical imagery of a woman decked out with jewelry, all symbolic. Now then you go to the 5th verse, and upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Now there's many theories about who this harlot is. The Catholic Church, Protestantism, all the isms, denominationalism, every bit of it, man's religion. Some people believe it's the Jesuits. Some people believe it's the Masonic Lodge. And oh my, I had these things. I was studying them in my teens and it was coming out of my ears. And everybody sounded, everybody sounded convincing. The people that tell you this is the Catholic Church, they'll sound convincing. I was convinced. But then I was convinced of something else. It was the Masonic Lodge or the Jesuits are considered part. It goes on, and they're all convincing. But we need to find the actual Babylon the Great. According to the Bible, let the Bible interpret itself for us to be able to do that. Hallelujah. And then in verse 6, I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. When I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. Now let's go down to the 9th verse. Here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. Now this is not Jerusalem. Jerusalem does have 7 mountains, but the woman is Jerusalem. But because she's on the beast that has 7 heads, the woman is sitting on 7 hills, 7 mountains. She's being established on the beast. So Israel is sitting on the power of the Roman Empire. That's what it's talking about. The 7 heads didn't belong to the woman. They belonged to the beast. And the woman was riding the beast that had the 7 heads. And that's why it says she's sitting on 7 hills.